Hi. What about some ASMR? Some gentle tapping?
Welcome to Thoughts for Your Thoughts. I don't know what we're doing.
Record scratch.
Hey everybody, welcome to We Watch TV, the podcast about the TV that we watch. I am Daniel, she is Hope. This is episode 62. I hope you enjoyed and were calmed by our tapping and my voice there at the beginning, because that is as calm as this episode's going to be.
Because it has been a week.
It's been a month.
A month, yeah. March, where did March go?
I don't know. It was like January was 40 days long.
Yeah, January is basically 6 months.
February felt long too, and then all of a sudden,
I think February
March is just
went by
like
fast.
Oh.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that. February was like boom, but
I mean,
March
it was at least
like,
a day longer.
Yeah, but March was like, hold my beer. We're gonna go really fast. It's apparently March Madness. Basketball is dead to me because of one man named Robert Huggins. That's all I'm gonna say about that. It doesn't hit the same when your team is not in it.
I didn't get invited to a single tournament this year.
I did, but this is the first year, I think probably maybe since like 2008 that I have not filled out a bracket because I just do not care. And I didn't want to do the pay to play ones that I was invited to with the fouls, shout out, just because I didn't know enough. So I didn't want to be out $20. I did see that Kentucky lost, though.
That always warms my heart.
Round.
And it always warms my heart to see
It's
Kentucky
fun
go
unless
out
it
early.
happens to you, because there was that one year
Yeah.
at WVU. We were like a 4 seed, I think, and we lost to that pro wrestler school, Stephen F. Austin or whatever, Stephen A. Austin. And it still haunts me to this day. I was so upset about that. I think that was like, 2016?
Yeah, it's
remember?
been a while at this point.
It was terrible, but it's always fun when it happens to another team. Has there been any other upsets? I'm not sure.
I don't know. I didn't pay attention.
That's how little we are paying attention to March Madness.
We are not paying attention to it at all. I didn't even
really
realize it had started until you started telling me about it. And I was like, wait, what week is it?
And apparently baseball starts this week, opening day. Just another great team that I have to look forward to in the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Who's the new player they got on the team this
I'm
year
not
that you're
going to
really
mention
excited
that.
for?
I can't stand that man, and I'm not going to say his name. If you want to say his name, have at it.
Chapman?
I can't believe. I mean, he's washed up enough that he'll come play for the Pirates.
There you go.
But that man, I'm still angry with him after he tried to behead Andrew McCutcheon. I wonder how well they better put them together in an interview, because I'm still like, But maybe the Pirates will have a fun, they had a fun April last year before
It all came crashing down.
it all came crashing down as usual.
Yeah.
But you know what I do like at baseball games? The food.
Oh, I love baseball food.
But you know what food I don't love so much? Hospital cafeteria food.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in respect of their privacy, I'm not going to say who or what we were doing, but we did have a family member that had a procedure done last week, and we got to eat at the cafeteria at the WVU. Well, it's not the WVU hospital. I think it is cut through WVU Medicine, so that's not entirely incorrect. But the hospital in Morgantown. Now, I used to go to this cafeteria occasionally. My family, I grew up going to every single WVU home football game. We had season tickets. Typically, we do the West Virginia thing, pepperoni rolls, tailgate. But occasionally, sometimes we would go. You could go into the cafeteria and eat before the games. I had revered this place as being awesome, because as a kid, you get to just go through, pick out what you want. I noticed they still had the little ice cream section. It's the first time I ever had a Klondike bar. I kid you not, was at the WVU cafeteria at the little hospital. And as an adult, it doesn't quite hit.
Yeah, it's I think because I remember you told me stories about this cafeteria.
I was like, the food there is really good.
And I think it's a very good example of some things that you remember from your childhood should be left in your childhood memories and not revisited as an adult. Because the hamburger that I have, and I use the heaviest air quotes I could, I said, I'll take the hamburger, and they just took some tongs and pulled it out of this bowl of water and slapped it on the griddle. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is going to be good.
Now, my nachos weren't bad, though. The nachos I got
Yeah,
were
I
good.
mean, how hard it's really hard to screw up nachos.
It was definitely the kind with the fake cheese, though, like what you would get at concession stands.
It was concession
and
stand
then
nachos.
apparently, like, they had to weigh it. That's, like, to determine
By
the
weight,
price.
yeah, that was the thing that threw us off.
The woman who looked like she was having the best day ever, by the way, that was working the register, she's like, well, you need to put them on the scale. And I was like, put what on the scale? Like, my body? What are you talking about? She's like, oh, the nachos. I'm like, oh, you do it like a yogurt place. And then I did get her to crack a smile. But I do love me some nachos, some food, like baseball game quality nachos. That's one of the good things you can say about when you go to a Pirates game, even if you know they're going to lose, you're going to get to enjoy some good food.
Yeah, there's good food there.
Content lately, I think everybody's saving everything for June.
Yeah, seems to be the case.
It's like everything coming in June. We'll get Star Wars, just released a trailer, I think a few days ago for The Acolyte. June. So anytime, I guess, like, I'm just going to assume everything's going to be in June from now on. But we have been watching some stuff. And one thing that I've been particularly enjoying, you got to see it in theaters. You've only popped in and out for this, is that the Eras Tour, Taylor Swift, for those of you uncultured swine, is now on Disney Plus. And we have some extra songs that we didn't get in the theatrical release. So Long Live was just in the credits. That was probably like my only beef about like the movie. And now we get her actually performing Long Live. And our third co-host, Mr. Marvin, he is a Swiftie.
Yeah, you sent me a couple pictures. It does look like he was actually paying attention to the TV, which I've seen. I know there are some dogs that do actually pay attention. He's never really been one that seems to care what's going on the TV.
If he hears a squeaky toy,
yeah,
he'll look up at the TV. And then he used to like Homeward Bound when he was a puppy. And he has watched Bluey a couple times. And I've heard that's like a common show because dogs, I think this is what I saw. I saw on TikTok, so again, who knows if that's true.
Warning.
Yeah, it said that like dogs see it the same as like what's on the TV because you know how they see like different colors. But I'm telling you, this little baby, he is a Swiftie. He was transfixed. He was like, oh my gosh, I love this. And he was just, and usually like you said, like he'll kind of lay down. He was just like all into it, like staring at it. I think what it is because he's like, this is the music mommy always listens to. Why is it out here?
We should get him some little friendship bracelets.
I should. We should do that.
He'd chew them off, but.
He probably would. But he's a little Swiftie.
You could get him a collar that's a friendship bracelet.
That is a good idea. You start an Etsy shop, Daniel. So what else have we been watching?
Well, we watched several made-for-TV movies.
Only two.
Two made-for-TV movies and one theatrically released film, but we watched it here on our couch via rental.
We did.
So, I don't know, you want to start with Ricky Stanicky? Sure,
why not? So we're just going to get in the movies first. We have watched some shows.
This one, it was on Amazon.
Yes.
And we found ourselves in need of mindless idiocy.
Exactly. That's the best way to describe this.
So think like this would have been a night in past years where we probably would have rewatched Step Brothers or something, right?
Yes.
Like that's what we were looking for.
Now, this movie is nowhere near as good as Step
No.
Brothers.
I'm not equating that. And so I am like, well, hey, there's this show, because I thought it was a TV show, not a movie, because I can't read, with John Cena in it. And you were like, I don't want to watch John Cena thing. And
not that I don't like John Cena. He's very funny, but I'm like, that's not a selling point.
And I was like, oh, come on, let's watch it looks just like the dumbest thing we could possibly watch. Let's watch the trailer. And then we get 5 seconds into the trailer. And
I'm like, you didn't tell me Zac Efron was in this. Way to drop the ball on that.
And so, spoilers ahead for everybody. If you don't want to be spoiled about anything that we're about to talk about, you should cut out now and come back after you've watched it.
We always put chapter markers in for that very purpose.
The main, the Ricky Stanicky plot is pretty simple. These three friends who are kids get into trouble when they're a kid. They end up making up this persona, Ricky Stanicky,
and they get him out of stuff.
Yeah, and they blame everything on it. And they end up taking it into their adult lives and using
like
Ricky
college.
Stanicky as an excuse to get out of things with their girlfriends and wives, and go, like this at the one we saw in this movie. They went to Atlantic City, right?
Yes.
So they get into trouble on the last trip where it's like they're really struggling to keep
they were
the
trying
facade.
to get out of the baby shower.
Yeah, get out of the baby shower, but the baby ends up coming. And so they're kind of like almost caught because the baby shower turns into she's actually having the baby and they're late for the baby's birth and they've got to try and come up with it, they've got to put it to sleep. And so
all their phones are off.
All their phones are off.
They actually take this thing as far, you guys, is that they have a separate phone. And Daniel's like, wow, that's taking it really far. And I'm like, that's exactly what I would do.
They have Ricky Stanicki's
like,
his own phone.
Get a separate phone, a separate account. You would not connect it to your own account. If you're going to do this, you've got to commit. But all their phones were turned off, so they missed all the notifications that the one guy, the redhead man,
about his kid coming. And so at the same time, they had met this guy in Atlantic City who is played by John Cena, and he's an actor, and they bought him some food and got his card.
Well, he's like a performer, too. Yeah. He was performing, like, sexualized, like, cover songs. But he changes the words so they all have to do with all, like, pleasuring yourself. Yeah. and John Cena is, you know what? I'm going to say this about him. He might not be the best actor, but he will commit.
He definitely commits.
He is funny.
Yeah.
Like, he was the best part of this movie. They're like,
they
just threw stuff. Like, he even like wore like a Britney Spears Baby One More Time outfit at one point in this.
Yeah.
They like threw stuff at the wall and they were like, do all this.
So
go as hard
long
as you
story
can.
short, they hire him to come pretend to be Ricky Stanicki for what was supposed to be a day. Ends up being about a week. Yeah. Shenanigans ensue.
Well, part of the reason why they have to end up hiring him is because when they rush to get to the baby being born, and then they forgot to corroborate their story.
Yeah.
And
so they're all a mess.
The one guy's wife's mother is, I don't know what was that. I kept waiting for the payoff for that. I think she was just annoying Karen, bad mother-in-law type. Like she, like obviously, you might question but she was like really invested.
They needed somebody to be very suspicious, and I felt like the other guy's mother actually could have ended up playing that role better because she would have been the one.
But she was more like, oh, I love Ricky.
Yeah, she would have been the one who would have been like known of him from a childhood.
Instead,
but she ended
like
up,
created memories.
Created
like that
memories.
She knew him. And Zac Efron's wife made a lot more sense to be the one that, and she ultimately does uncover who Ricky Stanicki is because she's a journalist.
Yeah.
And you could tell she was a little bit suspicious, and then they made it seem like, oh, she's going to interview him because she just got a job at what I think they were trying to be like some type of NBC ripoff channel. And at least it came around that she was kind of playing them, like baiting them to be like, hey, I know what's up with this guy. I just don't think we needed the crazy mother-in-law.
No, I don't think we needed the crazy mother-in-law.
It was one of those movies for me where I would say John Cena hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny. It was entertaining. And then the end was like, okay, we have to end this movie. You know how quickly Hallmark Christmas movie plots resolve once they have the conflict? It was like that, but even faster. Like, oh, here's a little bit of conflict. We're going to resolve it all. Everything's good. And I feel like they could have made the payoff so much better than they did.
I almost feel like there was a different ending in there somewhere that they decided to cut at the last minute and re-cobble together. I can see why it was
made for streaming and not a theatrical release. But if you are looking for something totally mindless to watch, check it out. John Cena is at least really funny. There's some really good bits. I always think Zac Efron does comedy very well, too.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It was perfectly serviceable as a I cannot use my brain tonight, so please just beam something into my eyeballs. A little higher quality, much higher quality than that. We also watched Anyone But You. This was a theatrically released rom-com. When did this come out last year?
I believe it came out in January, and if it was last year, it would have been late December. This is something that I wanted to see in the theater, but obviously we had our marathon. We were sick for several weeks after the marathon, and then I don't know, our theater still I don't know, maybe they don't, but as of last weekend, our theater still had Wonka out, and you can watch that for free on Mac. Well, not for free, but if you have Max, you can stream that. So I don't think it was in theaters very long, but I don't know if it got great reviews from critics, but it got a lot of people talking, because it's been a while since we've had a rom-com go to theatrical release, and once I saw that it was available to rent, I wanted to do that, of course, in true Hope fashion. If I had just waited a little bit longer, I could have streamed it because it is going to be available for streaming on Netflix on April 23rd. But I really wanted to see it. It was on my list. It has Glenn Powell, Sydney Sweeney. And I'm going to say that for me, Anyone But You is one of the best rom-coms I have seen since How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, which is, I think How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days came out in like 2003. So
You're discounting my my all-time favorite Palm Springs there a little bit, but I agree. I do agree. This
Palm
was very
Springs
good.
was not theatrical release. It was on Hulu.
Okay.
It could have been.
It could have
Palm
been.
Springs
It was the
easily
quality
could
to have been
a theatrical release, and I would agree. If we're rating like rom-coms in general, then yes, Palm Springs is way up there. I really like that one too. But in terms of theatrical release, I don't think there has been one. And I'm not saying Anyone But You is as good as How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, but there hasn't been one that good in this long. And Anyone But You was really funny, and the leads had good chemistry. What did you think of it?
The producers, directors of this movie knew how attractive their leads were.
Oh, they did.
And they made sure each lead, male and female, was in as little clothing as possible as often as they could reasonably pull it off within the script.
Oh, when they were hiking, having a romantic shower, the pool. They still wore clothing.
I liked it. I thought it was funny. It was very funny.
It was better than fine.
It was better than fine. For me, I'm not the biggest rom-com connoisseur in the world, so you have to take that with a grain of salt. But I did. It was very funny. Like that. That's what I'm here for. Yes. I like the calm part of rom-com, and it delivered on the comedy part for me. So I was satisfied.
Like I said, rom-coms are some of my favorites. Probably it is like comedy and then rom-com. Those are like my two favorite genres. Not that I don't appreciate a good drama, but typically when I want to be entertained, I want to laugh. I want a little bit of escapism. This movie delivered everything. Obviously, those two, they have a meet cute in a coffee shop, and then there's some shenanigans and misunderstandings, as rom-coms have. And then they end up meeting again because her sister is marrying one of his, is it his cousin or his good friend? I think it's his good friend.
I think it's his friend.
And so his good friend's family, they kind of have some money, so they go to Australia, which I do believe they did film a lot of this on location, at least.
Yeah, it looked like it.
It looked like it. They did a good job. And so I get the escapism of the nice, fancy, like, place to live. So I get, like, the nice escapism with a really nice, like, vacation home that I just like to see, the nice scenery. And as Daniel said, both of the leads did look very good, so there was the scenery there. And it was one of those things where, like, obviously, it's not a spoiler alert. They're going to end up together. Duh. But it was funny. It was cute. It had, I don't know what the actor's name is. We just call him Super Gavin and everything.
Oh, yeah.
The guy from My Best Friend's Wedding, the most boring role he ever played in The Family Stone. He's been on New Girl. So many things.
He got old.
Yeah. He still looks good, though. He's aged well.
Okay.
But I would recommend that. I think we need to make a push to bring rom-coms back to theaters. I love the superhero movies. Like I said, I can be down for dramas. I'm not so much of a horror person unless it's the Scream series. But what happened is, I feel like for the longest time, rom-coms like were always at the box office. Like they were always the ones that were coming out. And then really, I feel like when streaming kind of took over, a lot of those movies started going to streaming services. But there's a lot of us that we still want to go to the theater and watch these rom-coms. So I'm making this plea to you, Hollywood. Bring the rom-com back to the theatrical experience.
You heard it here, folks. And the final one that we watched, which I would akin to Netflix Hallmark.
Oh, absolutely.
But like this is the most Hallmark-like Netflix I have seen.
But it was better than Hallmark.
Yeah, I mean the production value was higher. You could tell.
And what was the name of this?
Irish Wish.
Irish Wish, starring Lindsay Lohan. We did not watch this on St. Patrick's Day weekend like I had originally wanted to do so. But even if you miss out on it, it's really, I don't think they mentioned St. Patrick's Day.
No, it didn't come out like if it's a St. Patrick's Day movie only in the fact that it's in Ireland. That's it.
And it also stars Jean-Luc Picard's son,
Jack Crusher.
I
don't know the actor's name.
From Picard season 3. All I know is that when I had tagged you in a post and was like, we should watch this movie for We Watch TV, you were like, is that Jack Crusher? And I was like, you're darn
Listen,
right it is.
If there's anything, I'm consistent, and I'm going to call out those Star Trek actors when I see them.
Well, it was weird for me because when I first saw the movie poster, I was like, I know that guy. And then I watched the trailer. You know how Netflix basically gives away the entire movie almost in the trailer, which this one didn't as much. Or maybe you know what? I don't think I actually watched the full thing because I didn't want everything. I mean, obviously, assumed she was going to end up with one of them because it was two guys in the picture. But I watched, I think, the first few seconds of the trailer, and I was like, Jack Crusher.
I like to think
Star Trek.
that this was a holodeck simulation, and he was on like
it
a
could have
break.
very well been.
And so he just showed up. He's like, you know what? I'm just gonna go old-fashioned rom-com.
It could have very well been because, I mean, we had the whole, like, mythical element.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she makes a wish on a special wishing bench in, like, a hike, a beautiful area. Did they film on location? I think they did here, too.
It sure looked like it.
Well, whatever.
What I know of what Ireland looks like, that looked very much. And the cliffs of Moher that they were on, that is actually, like,
even
that
if
is
it
an
was
Irish
just,
location.
like, B-roll that they used, gorgeous shots, gorgeous scenery. I feel like costuming was good in this. I don't know what was up with all the long sleeves. So what I mean by costume being good meant we're gonna put Lindsay in every shade of green imaginable to let you know that this is like a St. Patrick's Day-ish movie. So that's what I mean by costume being good. I saw a TikTok that criticized all the long sleeves, and I'm like, well, maybe it was cold when they were filming. But from what I mean is the greens, the plaids, they're like, we want you to know we're in Ireland and that it's around this time of year. Just like how Hallmark Christmas movies, the leads are almost always in reds, greens, sometimes like a wintry blue. They were like, do this. And I think the production value, you could tell it was Netflix, not Hallmark, though.
Yeah.
Even though it was the same trope. Like, everything looked brighter. And Lindsay Lohan is really good at comedic timing.
That's what I noticed the most is that, like, I remember that about her, is that, like, she's very good at physical comedy.
Even as a child actress.
And I hadn't seen her in anything has she been in anything recently other than this? Like,
well,
I don't know.
She did a Christmas movie for Netflix, which we have not seen yet.
But
it'll be on our list for next year, folks.
Almost immediately. No, actually, it was immediately. Like, she steps out of the cab and gets her scarf stuck in the door, and that's just this immediate. And what they're trying to say is this character's a klutz, but it's also what it's telling me is, they're leaning into what they know this actress does well.
Absolutely.
And she does it well.
She does. I've always thought that Lindsay Lohan's been a really good actress. I think, she kind of had a rough late teen, early adulthood, and she's really gotten things back together, and I think it's great she's doing these movies. And I think she's really funny in it. And it basically for a script let's face it, these scripts aren't great.
No.
But Lindsay's like, again, like John Cena committed in Ricky Stanicky. Lindsay's like, I'm going to commit. I'm going to make it funny. And I'm going to do all I can to it. So I think that can be kind of a difference between a Hallmark movie and a Netflix movie. If you get good actors, they can take those Hallmark-like scripts and actually make them a little more entertaining. Like the guy Jack Crusher, I don't know the actor's name. That's what we do on this show. We watch TV, folks. We call people by their most notable roles.
Catch up.
Lindsay Lohan's famous enough. We don't need to do that.
Yeah, but we only call her Lindsay Lohan, not by her character's name.
Or Lindsay. I don't even know what her character's name was.
I don't remember what her character's name was either.
It's not Katie Heron. Like, it's Lindsay Lohan's character. But so we had like a mythical element where she wishes she was married to the other guy who she was editing, aka writing the book for. And that's how I think you could be like, maybe it was in the Star Trek holodeck thing, because I feel like at the end, when things kind of start to resolve themselves, I almost feel like the Jack Crusher made some wish too, or he was in the holodeck. I don't know. Is holodeck, am I saying that right?
Holodeck.
I mean, and the way Star Trek is so out of pocket, like, it wouldn't surprise me. It would not surprise me when we tie everything together. Are we ever going to get a new Star Trek series with Jack Crusher and 7 of 9 like they indicated?
They really want to do it. No, it has nothing to do with the strike. It has to do with Paramount and the situation Paramount's in right now. And they may be shopping around selling Star Trek again. So who knows?
Well, now they could go to Netflix, and we really could tie this in, and we could get Lindsay Lohan in a Star Trek.
We should get Lindsay Lohan in a Star Trek.
I think she would be great at it. So this one, how would you? Anyone but you, still way better than this one.
I agree. Yes,
it's apparent that.
And by the way, I want to say, because we talked about another rom-com a few weeks ago.
Oh, I was about to bring this up, but you go for it.
So it's these three that we're talking about here. 50 Feet of Crap and then that one. What was that one called?
The other one we watched for Valentine's Day. It's called Your Place or Mine, and this is an example of when I said if you have good actors, sometimes good actors, if they have no chemistry, they can't even save a script. And that had Reese Witherspoon and Ashton Kutcher.
Awful, abysmal film.
And the way that movie was set up, they weren't even on screen together very much for good reason, because they had no romantic chemistry. And I love Reese Witherspoon. So, yeah, I absolutely agree. I would give that one, I don't know, maybe I probably was nice and gave it like a C when we talked about it, but in comparison to everything else, F. Like way, way below. So, give us your Irish Wish rating.
It was fine. For
me, I thought it was cute. And I think Lindsay Lohan, somebody said she has, again, this might be TikTok giving me this information, who knows, a 3-movie deal with Netflix. But a friend of mine said that this one was actually better than the Christmas one that she did.
So which holiday they're getting next?
I don't know. Arbor Day. I think that'd be cool, but that's like, I think next month. What would be another like out-of-pocket holiday that we could do?
Flag Day.
What? There's got to be something else.
Earth Day.
Earth Day and Arbor Day are around the same time. We don't have a lot of Thanksgiving
Yeah, there's
movies.
not a lot of Thanksgiving-specific holiday.
That
like
one Hallmark movie that was about the turkey hotline, it tried to play both sides.
Yeah.
Because we got both holidays.
They started at Thanksgiving, but they ended up in Christmas. That was a Christmas movie. I don't know.
But moving on.
Is it Bachelor time?
It is now time for what we call Daniel's Bachelor Corner. Take it away.
All right. As of this episode, and by this episode, I'm of course referring to this episode of the podcast, not this episode of The Bachelor. The final has aired.
The finale?
The finale?
The final.
Oh, yeah. I guess
the
so.
show's
There
going to
is an
live
E there.
on forever.
We doubt anything shocking happens because, of course, we haven't watched it yet, even if it is on. It's obvious, even if we didn't read spoilers, who Joey would pick.
Now, we could have egg on our face.
Who? Say it. Say it out loud then. Let's have that egg on our face if it's true. Who won?
It's supposed to be Kelsey.
All right. The last episode we did watch was the aftermath of the Fantasy Suites, a.k.a. Sex Night. Rachel was sent home. We hope her jaw is okay.
Remember, she hurt her jaw. Don't be dirty. Remember, she hurt it by jumping in the water? It looked fine. Okay, go on.
It looked fine on Women Tell All, which was the focus of the episode. The women, well, they told all. Moving on.
Yeah, they told all. We should, at this point, already know who the Bachelorette's going to be, so we can talk about that next week.
Who do you think it's going to be? Last chance.
Maria.
Okay.
It better be.
All right.
Stan. I'd be fine with Jen, though.
Okay.
And Daisy, only if we get Christmas Tree Farm episodes, like Hallmark stuff.
And finally, for the episode, we have a smattering of a bunch of stuff that we've basically only watched one episode of.
Yes. So the first one, we watched another episode of Abbott Elementary because we are now watching that in real time because, again, everything else seems to be waiting until June. So what's it like watching a sitcom in real time?
It's agonizing.
It really is.
It's really, I find it, now it's been a decade, basically, since I really watched a sitcom
Probably
real
not
time.
since Parks and Rec.
Yeah. It's almost unbearable.
Because we would let, when we would watch Big Bang Theory, we would let those stack. But because we don't have really anything to watch right now, and last week Daniel was like, do we have another episode of Abbott? And I was like, no. I'm like, they gave us the 2 episodes the 1 week because we got the special after Oscars.
Well, we didn't get any ghosts this week
next
because
one,
March Madness is on.
March Madness.
And it's just like, I have finding it really difficult to hold any of that information in my mind about what happened on the episode.
Yeah.
Because I can't watch like 5 or 6 at a time.
Streaming has just changed the game so much. And I laughed a lot the last episode of Abbott Elementary. I know it had to do with getting her library program approved, Janine, the main character. But other than that, I'm here for the ride. I'm here for the laughs. I just wish that they could just give me like 5 episodes at once.
Yeah.
And be like, go at your pace.
Yeah. So we tried a few new items.
Yes, we
did. First up on the list, we did watch the first episode of Peaky Blinders, which is a Netflix original. I did not realize it was a Netflix original until we played it and was like, oh, this is a Netflix original? I don't know. I don't know what I thought it was.
Cillian Murphy.
Yes.
Not Killigan. Not Cillian. Cillian Murphy. That show premiered in like 2014. Did you know it was that old?
No, I didn't, because I don't know. it just randomly
Where does
sometimes
time go?
sometimes the clips from that show show up on my TikTok. TikTok's
Yes.
like, hey,
That's literally why I watched it.
TikTok's like, hey, you're a man, and we think you want to watch this, so we give you a couple clips, and I always go past them because I don't care, and so it doesn't give them to me again for a couple months. But
Well,
yeah,
there's,
it
like,
made.
6
I felt like
seasons.
it was not as. It feels like it's older than I thought it should have been.
They are preparing for a movie.
That's what I've heard.
Correct. Alleged from TikTok. We need to like take a TikTok break.
Yeah, maybe the ban will be good for
The
us.
reason why I decided to, because I had seen some clips as well, and I'm like, you know what, I want to try something, and I was gonna watch it without Daniel, and then because he's like, I want my me time, and I'm like, do you want to watch this show with Theo James that's also new on Netflix? And he's like, no, pass. That show's called The Gentleman. I love Theo James, by the way. It's like Hayden Christensen, then Theo James. But Daniel overall. Anyway,
Moving on.
moving on. I'm like, I think I'm going to watch Peaky Blinders instead. He's like, oh, well, never mind. And he just runs back up the steps and settles in. I did not love it. I can see why. I feel like this is a show that a lot of guys
It's a cool guy
really
show.
like. It's a cool guy show. I might like it eventually. I mean, I could kind of already figure out certain dynamics, but I don't think it's the show for me. I'm not saying, usually my rule is I'm going to watch at least 3 or 4 episodes of a show before I really decide that, like, that's what I did with Breaking Bad. Sorry, I know everyone loves Breaking Bad. It's the world's most unpopular opinion. I was like, you know what? This show isn't for me. And I did the same thing with Sons of Anarchy. Just not my style. Not my thing. I think I watched way more of Sons of Anarchy than you.
I fell off that.
Like,
Like
I almost
after
got through the
episode.
first season, I think, and then I was just like, I can't do this anymore. But yeah, I think one problem that it had was it was a lot in the first episode. Like, but it was. I looked at you at one point and I said, "Did the guy, is his name Baz something, that directed the Elvis movie with Austin Butler?" Which I did like. I'm like, did he direct this TV show? Because this is just one scene to the next, like boom, 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 boom. So if you are the type that gets bored by long scenes, you might like this show because the transitions were almost jarring. And I think we'll probably, at least I would hope, that each episode you get to know the family a little bit more, the Shelby family, and some of these things would be fleshed out.
There's only 2 Shelby brothers.
Yeah, Daniel was convinced there were 3 Shelby brothers at first, and I'm like, no, I think that guy's just like their war friend, which I ended up being correct on. Thank you very much. I
figured you wanted
unless
to...
for some, because at one point I'm like, well, if they're brothers, I'm like, why is he doing the sister? I'm like, what show are we watching? Is this Game of Thrones?
That was the first hint for me that I may have been wrong on
the first
that.
hint, though, because unfortunately Game of Thrones has made us be like, but is it?
That's what I told you when we were having the argument about it. I was like, well, I've been watching a lot of Game of Thrones, and it's not necessarily a problem.
And then Sam O'Neill, is that his name? The Jurassic Park
Sam
guy?
Neill.
Sam Neill?
Yeah.
Is he British or
Irish
or something in real life? I did not know that.
I think he's Irish, yeah.
Wow. So I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I was decently entertained, but I wasn't like, oh, I need to hurry up and go to the next episode. It definitely, like you said, it's a cool guy show. There's violence, some gunshots, and just like the Shelby family. You can tell, like, you know, they're cool with their little side booking. They're like bookers, like
Bookies.
gambling bookies.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question about the first episode, because I think the thing that was going to hook you, or was supposed to hook people, is what goes down with Danny. So Danny kind of is having some post-traumatic stress from World War One.
The other war friend.
He stabs a guy by accident who happens to be the brother of some Italian mobsters.
Yeah.
And so Tommy has to, and as a show of, hey, I'm going to take care of my own business, shoot him, dispose of him, right? And so we think that he has. But then the last shot of the episode is Danny wakes up in the barge, and they didn't actually shoot him. They just faked it, and he's sending him off on a special mission in London.
I would have been more impressed if he had actually just killed him.
That was my thought. Like,
then I'm like, well, this guy is bad.
I had the opposite reaction of what I think they were trying to go for when he walked out of there. I was like, oh, that kind of,
It would have illustrated to me like, whoa, they're not messing around.
Yes, exactly.
Instead,
because I remember when that scene happened, you were like, you had that reaction.
Yeah, I wasn't happy that the guy died.
Right.
Let's not call it that. But I was I was taken aback because I thought he was like going to turn around and like shoot the other guys, and we were going to have like the, another like gunshot.
Because
like
they
fight
had taken
scene.
steps throughout the episode to show
Yeah.
you the connection that Tommy had with Danny from the war, and how they were, they were really trying to help him.
And how close they were. So it makes sense that he wouldn't actually do that. And it seemed like he has kind of been going against what his family wanted him to do anyway, with like the weapons. He was supposed to get rid of those. So you can tell he kind of is doing his own thing. I mean, Cillian Murphy is a great actor.
He is, yes.
So he's great in that. I think maybe, it might be an Echo situation, which I've only seen one episode of, and maybe like by August, when all the June shows have passed, I'll go back and revisit. So I could revisit Peaky Blinders this week, next weekend, 2 years from now. Who knows? It's nice to know we have that content sitting out there.
And if we've got fans of the show, like, again, we do make a good effort to try and go at least 2 or 3 episodes before we drop something.
And was it supposed to be shocking about the girl that showed up to work in the bar and
I
was singing?
know, right?
Because I had that pegged like immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately. So, yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you. It was good. It was an entertaining 40, 50 minutes, however long the episode was, but it didn't leave me with this nagging urge.
You weren't like sizzled
to watch the second episode, which the next show that we're going to talk about did, because we immediately watched the second episode.
Exact opposite feelings.
Yeah, exact opposite feelings.
I need to watch the next episode right away.
Which I had to convince you to watch this show.
And that is Severance on Apple TV Plus. I always called it Apple TV. Apparently it's Apple TV Plus.
What's the plus for?
I don't know. We'll just call it Apple TV. But that has Adam Scott in it. His name is Derek, and he can sing hi. Also, Mr. Ben Wyatt. Yeah, I wasn't, like, when I read the description for it, I'm like, I hate shows like that. But they're doing it correctly, so I'm not hating it as much as I thought I would. And to me, it's funny. I don't know. Is it going to be funny for people without really dark humor?
I don't know. It is definitely dark, dry humor, for one.
So if you like dry humor, and if you've ever worked in an office or like really corporate America in general, I feel like this show is almost like a satire on that corporate office life. But basically the plot of it is you can choose to go to this job. It's through this company. I don't know what the name of the company is, like Lumon or something.
Lumon or something. Yeah, something
I
like
keep
that.
wanting to be like Lululemon every time they say the name of the company. Like, what are they making, leggings? And you can choose to be on the severance floor. So basically what that means is when you get to work, they do something like mythical, which I think they put like a chip in your brain.
They put a chip in your brain.
And you get to work and you forget everything about who you are. They call it your outie life.
Yeah.
You don't know, like, if you're married. You don't know if you have kids. You don't know where you live. You don't know what do you like to watch March Madness? Do you like to watch baseball? You know nothing about that. All you know is your time at work. Then you leave, and you know that you work in Severance because you signed up to do that, but you have no idea what you do. You have no idea who your coworkers are. Because when I first read about it, I'm like, well, then how would they remember to go to work? How would they know what they're doing? And they do explain that, because that was one of the things that I had wanted to know. And not only that, but they reveal, I believe in the first episode, that it's not a secret if you work. It's a known program.
That was the part to me that really got when that came out. All of a sudden, I was like, "Oh, I'm in now."
And now you have my attention.
That is really cool. That basically, and not just that everybody knows about it, but there is like political and social controversy about it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like in one of I think this might have been the second episode, where he's out on like a blind date that his sister set him up with. And they see people protesting because they say that, this company, they eventually want to make everybody be a severance worker and to put a stop to it. So that's like the whole like political thing. The tropes that I liked were like getting excited for like a melon party or a waffle party. It's like the whole like, here, instead of giving everybody more money and good access to healthcare, we're going to give you a pizza party.
Yeah.
Like kind of that like thing. And then we're a family. Like you always see like all the corporate America like tropes. And they have the one guy that comes in, the older worker that, what do you call them, kids or something?
Yeah.
The Barton Fink guy.
Barton Fink, yeah. I don't know what his actor's name is, but he was in a movie, a Coen's movie, brothers movie called Barton Fink in the 90s. Watch it. It's weird.
What else has he been in besides Mr. Deeds? He was on an episode of Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yep, he was.
He's an actor that shows up in a lot of stuff, but we remember him from Barton Fink.
Yep. I really enjoyed the 2 episodes. I'm excited to get back to it and keep on watching. I don't know how many episodes there are. I'm
6.
worried.
I think there's 6, right?
Gosh, oh no.
I thought you already looked that up. I'm going to look that up now. Spread it out.
I just want a couple more episodes, folks. That's it. That's all I want. I just want 8 or 10 episodes of these shows, please. I know I don't want filler episodes, but I mean, come on.
Well, I've decided not to look it up because I'm worried that if I
I
do,
might get spoiled.
it will spoil it for me. But if I had to guess, I thought you had said that you already looked and it was 6.
No, I just guessed
You
that there
just
were
guessed.
6 because
I'd
that's
say
how things are going these
10
days.
would be max, and I doubt we'll be that
Absolutely, yeah.
blessed. But we are 2 episodes in. It is. I like the not dinner scene.
Yeah.
We're gonna invite you over for a not dinner, and we need to do that soon. That actor, I'm pretty sure, was in Orange Is the New Black and played a very similar character, so I thought that was funny. That would have been his brother-in-law. Was it? They made the joke about the beds that got me.
He had 3. They have a baby on the way.
The sister's pregnant,
and he put 3 beds in the bedroom: the baby bassinet, like the kid's bed, and like more of like a teenager's adult bed, because they're like.
One of them is the race car bed, so he made Adam Scott's character sleep in that. He's like, we find that, it's traumatic when you switch out a child's bed without letting them get used to it, so we want to put them all in the same room. And I'm like, you know what? When I was a kid, I remember being upset when they got rid of my, I don't really remember the crib, but when I had to get, rid of my one bed to get to the other bed, I remember being upset about that. Were you?
I don't recall.
You had a mattress on your floor at one point.
Didn't have a mattress on. That was not until I was in college that I had the mattress on the floor. Thank you. I had a regular old bed frame.
Is it because Hannah took your old bed frame or something when you went to school? Your sister?
I don't know what happened to it because I had that gigantic. You never even saw the bunk bed. So I don't know.
Bunk beds.
I don't know. I don't know.
You don't feel
really have a memory
affected
of it.
by the trauma of the.
I don't.
But your family was the type that was like, let's switch our rooms around at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
You had a lot of chaotic energy.
Yeah, there was a lot of chaotic energy. So
I'm excited to watch the next episode.
I'm excited.
Of the show.
It's got its hooks in me for sure. Season 2 is, I think, being filmed or will be being filmed soon. So probably not a 2024 release, but 2025.
You know what I hope, though? I really hope that not everybody has a tragic story of why they chose Severance. We know the main character, Adam Scott's character, and see, that's an actor. I know his name, so I'm going to say Adam Scott. Or I'll just call him Derek, whatever. Derek. This is the one we call Derek. But we know that, obviously he was a professor and his wife died.
Yeah.
So he's clearly not wanting to face that pain. We don't really know anything so much about the other ones. I hope we do get that. But I really, really hope that one of them, the guy that's kind of the goofball, I'm either they're going to hit us with a really tragic story about him, or he's just going to be like, yeah, I just wanted to do it.
He strikes me as I sit around and play video games all the time.
And I would love, I don't want everyone to choose to do the Severance because something terrible has happened in their life. I want someone to be like, yeah, I just decided. If I was a writer, that's what I would be going for. And we have our conflict because one of the Severance people stopped. And that's part of, and he's met up with Adam Scott's character.
Well, he somehow figured out a way to get out and, cut the severance, so he's merged again.
Because they can't even try to write notes or anything that.
Well, they've pointed it several times. They say there's a system that doesn't allow it to happen, and I don't think that's true. I think that's company propaganda.
We'll see.
So,
we'll see.
Yeah.
I really feel like that's obviously going to be kind of our conflict, and that's where we're at right now. I really think there's a lot of different directions this show can go.
I think so too. I'm greatly looking forward to it. So, and then you wanted to talk briefly about the documentary series on Max, Quiet on the Set.
Yes, and you did watch a little bit of the first one with me, and then I kind of explained to you what's happened. I feel like this is very depressing, obviously.
Yeah.
It's pretty much covering some of the abuse that child actors, many of which we grew up with, endured during Nickelodeon, during their time on shows in the 90s and the early 2000s. And I kind of avoided watching it for a few days, but I feel as though if you are somebody that grew up watching those shows and you want to put a stop to stuff like that going on in the industry, I think that you should watch it and inform yourselves, or at least read about it. I've kind of filled in for you about what's going on. So if you don't want to sit there and watch the documentary, I think you should at least read about some of what's come out since then, because I think it's just being a responsible member of society that we should not let this stuff go on anymore. Like the Me Too movement changed a lot of things for women in particular in Hollywood, but I mean, these are kids, and what has happened is disgusting. It's gross. I don't want to go into terrible detail, but the fact that so many adults in that industry and at that network, and I'm sure it's happened at other places, allowed it to go on and didn't do anything about it, absolutely disgusts me.
Yeah, I agree. And it's I've seen a lot of people online talk about how it's really difficult just because a lot of those shows, I think a lot of the shows that are in question are a little, at least for me, they're a little past the time that I was watching Nickelodeon.
Not all that.
All that would have been
All
one of the
that,
ones for
Keenan
sure.
and
But
Kel, like that, those were the Nickelodeon shows.
Some of
we
the
grew
other
up
ones
with.
are a little bit past for me.
Yes.
But it is, I understand. I've had that happen to me with shows and TV and movies where an actor or somebody involved with the production comes out and is like a really, really, really terrible person.
Oh yeah.
And it certainly is difficult to kind of reconcile that with the fond memories you have of that piece of media. Some of the stuff they showed in the introduction part that I saw of Quiet on the Set, where they were showing some of the scenes from the shows and then kind of like viewing it from an adult standpoint, and it's like, oh,
like what are you doing? And this is, like I said, is totally different because these are kids. And these were a lot of the shows that we did grow up with. And like Daniel said, some of that we were aged out of, like Drake and Josh, we were kind of like past the Nickelodeon point in that. But I did watch Zoe 101. They interviewed some cast from that. I did watch Victorious, and I have seen some episodes of Sam and Cat, even though at that point for Sam and Cat I was already aged out as well, but I had gone and watched a few episodes of that. All that was probably like the biggest thing that I would say I watched from the Nickelodeon era. And they're all created by a man named Dan Schneider. Or if they weren't all created, he had a huge role in it. He would even be on the show sometimes. And I'm just going to say that I have been thinking that guy's creepy since like Jamie Lynn Spears got pregnant, like when she was a teenager. Now, I don't believe in the theory that he's the father of her child, like a lot of people say, but I did find when I would read about that incident that seemed to me like a little creepy on set. And I'm like, this guy doesn't seem like he's acting very appropriately with these young actors. And then I would just kind of put it out of my mind. Then years later, Amanda Bynes would go on a Twitter rant about it, and everyone dismissed her as like, oh, she's crazy now. Who cares? Fast forward another 10 years, and here we are with this documentary. And, you know, maybe Amanda Bynes, bless her heart, because I know she's had a lot of trouble, maybe she's not as crazy as people thought. And we're finding, and I guess I have not seen it. I guess another actor that he had worked with interviewed him after this for him to like respond to Quiet on the Set. I don't intend to watch it because I think too many people have come out, even like adults, like some of the writers that he hired, like female writers in particular, said that he would make them give like him massages during the workday. So it's very creepy. And what they allowed to happen, I think that they should be ashamed, the adults. Like, and then one guy in particular that they talk about that committed a lot of the abuse, because they had a few, more than one.
Yeah.
This guy only got 16 months. That's insane to me. And then Disney hired him for another show, which we learned in the documentary. And I'm like, what are you doing? So I think for the most part, Disney has stayed pretty clean on some of this. I don't know. For now, yeah.
We'll see.
And I think something's got to change in the industry. We got, like, you can't, if I had children, I never would want them to be an actor. But then, like, you think about, like, stuff that can happen to kids. Like, hate to get real dark, but you can't trust anybody. And we have to do better as a society. And that's why I think if you don't watch it, read about it, learn what's going on, because these shows made my childhood happy, and it's really disturbing to find out that what was going on. And like you said, the thing about the scenes, like some of those scenes went completely over my head as a child, thank goodness. And you look back on that, and there was the whole, were you watching the peanut butter thing for all that? A kid got covered in peanut butter and they had dogs come lick it off of him.
I didn't see that part. I was in here for the part with all the feet, like them showing like how often feet were around, and I'm like,
what are we doing here? So I hate to like really take this on a dark path, but I educate yourself, because we've got to do better.
It's an industry of personality.
Yes.
Then personality is what makes a lot of the best stuff out there. But also personality. If you learned anything from watching Dune and Dune Part 2, cults of personality should be you should be skeptical of them. And I think that is what is applied here is like, he clearly had the personality and got in with the right people and was able to climb the ladder and get himself a power base that nobody was willing to challenge. And let's not forget, it's as bad as some stuff can be from the Me Too movement. This is worse. These are children.
Exactly.
If you think that men have power over women in a normal office relationship, or not office, but like in the acting world, which they did, it's 1,000 times worse when you're a kid and this is an adult and you believe that this adult is trying to watch out for you and has your best interest in mind, and your parents aren't really given much guidance because you're their meal ticket. Like,
I would describe
it's
this
bad.
documentary as How We Have Failed Children.
Yes.
So apparently there's another episode coming in April. I don't know if it's going to address the fallout of other stars coming forward, but all we can do is hope that people learn from this. The right people are, put in charge. Oh, yeah. We get kind of the scummy people out of there. And, because children's television is important. Like, we grew up watching, like, fun shows. And I want to know that the people that I watched on TV are being taken care of.
All right, everybody. It is once again time for the OC rewatch. We are into season 4. We are hurtling towards the end.
And we're not leaving you hanging. We're coming back with more season 4 content. This is the first time, very similar. See, I've rewatched some of the episodes of season 3 before I peace out of there. But this is my first rewatch ever of season 4. I think this is you've seen the series finale because I made you watch it a long time ago, but you've never seen season 4.
Okay.
We are now, we've dealt with the fallout of Maritza Cooper's passing, and this is where the show's now trying to get back, which I appreciate that it is trying to get back to a lighter note, but it just doesn't feel like the OC. I feel like I'm watching a spinoff.
Yeah, I can kind of feel that. I don't know. I don't know that it's as that bad. I think the only thing that bothers me is just like, you've been, for the past 5 months that we've been watching this show, you've been telling me that Taylor and Ryan is something that I'm going to enjoy.
I actually do enjoy
and
Taylor
then I'm
and Ryan.
getting to it and I'm like,
you still don't enjoy them?
I'm not there yet.
I am a huge Marissa Ryan shipper, and I never thought that I would enjoy him with anyone else, and I really didn't. I didn't really like him with Lindsay. I didn't really like him with Sadie. I didn't like him with Teresa. I do enjoy him with Taylor. And I think that her character is a little bit much, but I feel like I connect to characters, if I'm being honest, that are a little bit much. And I think that while Ryan and Marissa were probably soulmates, we never really got to see them happy. We got to see, I'm going to compare it to the OC's counterpart, One Tree Hill. We finally got to see Peyton and Lucas happy. And yes, some of the Peyton Lucas happy scenes do come off as cringe because it's just like, whoa. Like, do you remember, like, their fight with the cookie dough? They got criticized for that. Hillary Burton's even talked about it on the Drama Queens podcast. She's like, yeah, we took some crap for that about how cringy it was. She's like, but y'all, I finally wasn't crying in an episode. Me and Chad finally didn't have to do scenes where we were arguing. She's like, that's what it was apparently like when these two characters got to be happy and you get to be silly with your partner, and a lot of people don't understand it and would find it cringe. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That's a good way to describe it. We never got to see that with Ryan and Marissa. We just kind of see them, for the most part, bring out the worst in each other at times because the show leaned so heavily into the drama.
I must have fugue stated all of that stuff about you just said on One Tree Hill because I don't remember it at all.
Oh, I guess it's time for a One Tree Hill rewatch.
No. If you suggest, no.
That being said, I think that I almost called her Summer. Taylor was really what Ryan needed. And now that I'm doing this rewatch, I remember why I thought I would not like them together. But I remember why at the time I didn't hate them together, and I actually kind of enjoyed their relationship. He has spent so much time where he's just constantly saving people. She brings out a different side to him that we don't see, kind of a light that he really hasn't had. And I think that's a good balance to have. And I liked the dynamic. I do not dislike them as a pair, and I also think that at the end of the day, Ryan was 18 years old. I would not expect anybody that is 18 years old to never find another love again. So
Sure.
I wouldn't want him to be like
I agree
terribly
with that.
unhappy unless, the Vampire Diaries, those people live forever.
Hey, we've got plenty of season left. Maybe she'll sell me on it. So before we go too much more deeper in here, what episodes are we specifically talking about today?
We are going to talk about season 4, episode 4, The Metamorphosis, episode 5, The Sleeping Beauty, and episode 6, The Summer Bummer, and we will conclude our discussion with episode 7, The Chrismukkah, huh? So things are kicking off here. Summer is doing some soul searching after a visit from Seth. Taylor, she has her own little situation going on. She's trying to find Seth, who is actually visiting Summer at Brown right now because her ex-husband's sending a lawyer in to try to bring her back to France because she got married in France.
Yeah.
Because Taylor will... Sorry, I hit my microphone. I'm sure Daniel's going to yell at me. You can cut that part out. But I'm, in true Taylor fashion, any man that gives her attention. So she apparently decided because the girl has like no confidence. Let's call it what it is. She apparently married somebody. He's trying to drag her back there. So she's trying to find Seth, her one male friend. That's not, Summer's her friend, but Summer's couldn't do this part to be like, hey, I need you to come pretend to be my boyfriend so I can get out of this. So Seth's gone, and I guess bringing in Ryan, 2 characters who have maybe had like one scene together in the entirety of the show. So Ryan ultimately does decide that he's going to help her. He kisses her, and I'll say that was a hot kiss. I would have been like Taylor in that scene too. I feel like this, I got to say this. I've always been a Seth gal, and at the time of the airing, I remember being like, I could switch to Ryan because I liked his haircut in this season, and he just looks so good. And I could see why Taylor was a little taken back by that little kiss there. It was a hot kiss. It really was. And it was supposed to be just like, hey, I'm pretending, but they put some feelings into that.
I don't have any commentary on the kiss myself.
On the kissing?
No. I actually, honestly,
because Ryan's working at that mall set too.
To be honest with you, this entire episode set that we've got here, I have no ammo because I'm saving it up to when we get to the Chrismukkah episode.
Yeah. But again, as I mentioned last week in the pod, apparently season 4 of this mall is like the new set. I think it's clear we had some budget cuts. So let's get Ryan a job at like some restaurant. So that's where Taylor was.
He's working at the restaurant that is like one level down from where Seth is working at the comic shop. And everybody in OC, even though we've never seen them go to this place during the entirety of the show, suddenly everybody is walking through there so they can see each other and what they're doing.
So yes, that is the start of the Ryan-Taylor romance, which I will say I am enjoying. We also have some more Caitlyn storylines. Have we met the Bullet yet in these episodes? Daniel and I kind of
think we have. Yes, we have. And I still...
Bang!
You keep telling me you're going to like this character, and I'm
no, I didn't say like it. I said you're going to be amused by him. Okay.
I'm not yet.
I forgot.
He is just so... I know you said this season doesn't feel like the OC, and I think you're right. But of all the things about this season that don't feel like the OC, like this Yosemite Sam character walking around really doesn't feel like the OC.
And I had completely forgotten, because again, this is my first time rewatching season 4, that Julie was hooking up with the Bullet's son, who was Caitlyn's tennis instructor. Who Caitlyn was wanting to hook up with the tennis instructor, so they have the whole mess around. Basically, Sandy and Kirsten were like, hey, Julie, we have a rich man for you. Come take him out so we can get our business up and going. And remember how last season I was like, I thought that Julie turned it into an escort service. Yeah. And I was like, maybe I made up that plot line in my head. I did not. I just got it confused with the events of season 4.
And she's doing it with the Bullet's son, right?
Yeah.
Is he Bullet or the Bullet?
I think it's just Bullet.
Okay.
So Caitlyn has more storyline now. I remember nobody liked Caitlyn back in the day, but I'm appreciating her character more in season 4 because she's acting like a teenager, and she's grieving too in her own way. She had to deal with Julie kind of being an absent mother for a little bit with the fallout. What do you think of Caitlyn? She's now she's like
with
a
the episodes
character.
we're talking about here, she hasn't done a whole lot of stuff.
We have Luke's brothers.
Other than she's got Luke's brothers as her followers.
Her little minions.
And she said last season she was going to take over the school, but she hasn't really taken a ton of steps to do that yet.
I feel like Marissa's death kind of put that on the back burner.
Like she sabotaged the one girl's party, but then she didn't really take advantage of that situation to do anything about it.
And she only really did that, though, because she felt that that girl was being mean to some other girls.
Sure, and she was.
I think probably Caitlin's whole, like, trajectory and what she had originally intended for herself really did change with the passing of her sister and her mother kind of going off the rails, and she's just trying like
sure. And you know, if she's not, if you believe the Chrismica episode, she's not a catty character at all. There's a timeline where she is graduated from high school early and in college already,
which we'll get to the Chrismica episode.
I'm just loading my shots.
So I believe one of these episodes we also have Summer in therapy, and they kind of rush through therapy, but we have like
yes, I recall that.
I like how, because Summer's always been known for her rage blackouts, so I like that she had anger twice. But that's also where we have Summer feels like she's going to lose Seth if she doesn't just go back to how she was in high school.
Yeah.
And that's really not the case. So they finally have to kind of talk a little bit about their relationship, and that she's like, you know, I do kind of like the new me, even though I started this as grief, like I kind of like who I've become in Brown. But then Che, of course, ruins everything and screws Summer totally over, because she, like, they go free some bunnies, I believe, because she ended up taking Bunnies the pancake. She ends up taking that bunny home with her, but she gets.
I think the bunny's name was just Pancake, not the Pancake.
Okay, pancakes.
Although now that I think about it, we should name pets the.
Are we gonna be like Ohio State people? The Ohio State. Anyway, speaking of pretentious, sorry to all my Ohio State listeners, but come on. So Che throws Summer totally under the bus. She gets suspended from Brown. She has to come. So that's how we get everybody back in California, because we know Seth can't go to school till later. Summer's back. And Taylor's obviously there, so
because she didn't get kicked. She got kicked out for the semester, essentially, right? Or like for the rest of the year. But
I think it's like for the rest of the year.
But she can come. She'll be able to go back in the fall, which is when Seth will be able to go back anyway.
Supposedly,
so
yeah. So
very convenient way of getting her back to the OC.
Yeah, we had to find a way to get the gang all back together again. And Ryan's now no longer cage fighting, but now he cannot sleep because. Now that he doesn't have, vengeance for Voltron. Oh, you should have said it. Volchuk, as Daniel calls him, Voltron. He no longer has vengeance on his mind, so now he's like, what next? He can't sleep. And Taylor, she's a smitten kitten with Ryan, so she decides to pretend to be his sleep therapist. But she actually does end up helping him, which is great. She can actually understand. She's like, how do you, say what I'm, thinking? So she does have that empathy and that intuitive nature that she actually, even though she's doing it and she admits it for kind of nefarious reasons at first to try to hook up with him, she really did help him, and he does finally sleep, which I thought that was nice. And as somebody who deals with insomnia, I can tell you it is really hard and frustrating. I know you've never had this problem because you can fall asleep at the drop of a hat. You sleep. You fell asleep one time standing up in a line at Disney.
That's a whole other problem,
I guess. But it is really hard to not be able to sleep.
I agree. I don't have insomnia necessarily, but I certainly have restless leg syndrome.
Yeah.
And that's no fun.
But I have full-blown diagnosed insomnia.
And that one time, last couple of weeks, where my hand just randomly hurt for 2 hours in the middle of the night to the point where I thought I was going to have to go to the hospital, and then it just went away. That was weird.
That was weird.
Getting close to 40, everybody. It's barreling down the tracks.
One could say you're almost 40.
But they wouldn't.
Podcast lore. So we do get some more Ryan and Taylor build. They actually, Ryan's starting to get a little into her and is amused by her, even though he's like, am I ready to move on? What's going on? They kiss again. Taylor freaks out about it and is just like, okay, and just runs off, where Ryan clearly enjoyed the kiss. And then this is where it's a little cringe. He starts in the next episode, he's so smitten with Taylor suddenly. He starts envisioning her.
I hated that.
That was dumb, and I feel like the actors didn't like doing that either.
I hated it.
Are you dirty, Ryan? Or they have her in washing his car, in these visions that he has of her. But that aside, they do kiss again at Caitlin's party that she takes over, and Taylor's basically like, I don't mean we have to be like boyfriend girlfriend right away. I just want to use your body as a jungle gym. Is that what she says? She says something chaotic.
I don't know. I forgot most of it in my rage blackout after the last episode we're going to talk about.
Which is we're getting to that one.
We're almost there.
So Ryan and Taylor definitely have a thing.
Yeah.
It's the beginning of the Ryan Taylor relationship, and I enjoy it. Like, what do you not like about it?
It's not that no. It's not that it's off-putting to me. It's just I haven't seen the connection for me as the viewer yet as to why I should be rooting for this.
I think one of my favorite tropes after enemies to lovers is like she was sunshine and he was like kind of darkness, and I see that as them. And I think it's really nice that Ryan has somebody that's gonna say, like, that's almost saving him. Like, he spends all these times caring for other people, and she just brings out, like, he needed somebody to bring him out of that darkness. And even I think one of the show creators did say, they are in game technically, but I feel like we haven't watched the finale yet, but from what I remember, I think they did make it interpretive. So even if you want to assume that they never got back together, she helped Ryan move on. They helped each other. And I think that's a very good, and I would be fine if they ended up together. And like, as the show creator did say, he's like, well, I think they're in game. So
we'll never know, because the reunion's not going to happen.
It should happen though, but I would.
I have a pitch for them if they're ready. I have a pitch for them. I'm ready to pitch it.
Do you want to pitch it now or wait for another OC?
I'll do it now. So,
okay.
And I don't know the whole show, but it's got to be a Chrismukkah episode.
Better than the one that you're so eager to talk about.
That's correct.
Okay.
And if he is with Taylor, then we need to. Okay, I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to talk about the Christmas episode. And I fully realize I'm a hypocrite when it comes to this, but we're going to do a Christmas Ghosts Past situation where if he's with Taylor, but somehow through the episode, all of his girlfriends, including Marissa,
like that Hallmark movie and then the movie with Matthew McConaughey. Like Ghost of Girlfriends Past?
Yeah.
Okay.
Comes back and like haunts him. Like maybe he's having some sort of like midlife crisis or something.
They did a Frasier episode like that.
Yeah. And all of them come back, including Marissa, and that's how you get that actress into the show, even though canonically she's
I was
dead.
thinking more witness protection program, that Marissa never really died. Go on.
No, I'm done. That's my pitch. That's how you get Marissa Cooper back in the episode. Can I please?
Okay. I've got to introduce this episode first.
Right.
So, as we were doing our rewatch, putting in the work for you guys, Daniel's like, well, that's good. We're going to get a Chrismukkah episode again. And I
was robbed.
And I said, oh, honey. I'm like, because suddenly it came screaming back to me. I'm like, you are absolutely going to hate this episode. I'm like, it's kind of doing like, it's a Wonderful Life type trope that every show does. You hate when shows do that. This is sort of their like, what if this didn't happen and you didn't come to so-and-so's lives? This is how it could be. Daniel notoriously hates those, but it was just the look on your face when you realized that you weren't going to get a fun Chrismukkah episode. It really did break my heart a little bit. So the episode titled The Chrismukkah, Huh? This is the description on IMDb. In a parallel universe, Sandy is married to Julie. Kirsten is Mrs. Jimmy Cooper. We get to see bum Jimmy again. Summer is engaged to Che, and Seth is in full geek mode, and Ryan and Taylor stuck there after a fall, so they're like themselves, and they like got transported there because they're like in comas. They must change it. So without further ado, kick it off for us.
I hated this episode, and yes, part of that hatred is because I hate. I don't hate It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a good movie.
I just want to make sure that it's clear, because I know that
it's a good movie. Leave it
a lot of people out there who really love that movie. It's not my favorite movie in the world. I don't even think it's a Christmas movie.
White
Whatever.
Christmas is better.
We're
going to
go
Christmas
on
movies.
with life and just remember that's all that. I hate every show that has ever done a riff off of It's a Wonderful Life. They're terrible episodes. Throw them in the garbage. I don't want anything to do with them. Get them out of here.
You always yell
because
at me
they're
for hitting my
worthless.
microphone, and you just hit your microphone.
I hit the table, not the microphone.
Okay.
They're worthless. They're meaningless. And also, by the way, a coma. They're in the coma together. They can talk to each other in the coma.
That was some Star Trek level unhingedness going on there.
And I would have, if it was a Star Trek episode, I might have been on board with it. But the fact of the matter is, this is an episode of the OC we're talking about here, and they're in a coma where they can interact with each other in the alternate universe world that they've created.
What are we doing here? Now we do have some plot movement a little bit, but I remember being teased for this episode, and I should have known better back then. I remember watching this when it aired, thinking that they were actually going to bring Misha back because they kind of like teased Marissa.
I mean, they even teased it in the episode, where you saw the commercial.
I already knew that.
Where the commercial breaks would have taken place. They teased it right there at that spot. And that, I think,
is cruel. It's mean.
Maybe would have, if they had actually brought her back for one episode to kind of help give Ryan some closure.
Yeah.
Maybe it would have been worth it. But ultimately, I know he got the closure. I know what they did with the episode. I saw the episode, and I'm here to say it sucked. And it's dumb, and I hate all episodes of any TV show whatsoever that have anything to do with spoofing It's a Wonderful Life. If you've got one that you think I would like, I'm just going to stop you right there and tell you, no, you're wrong.
It was funny, though, how they got Geek Seth to believe them. Because no one else believed or knew who they were because they didn't exist in their world. And they got Geek Seth to believe that they were from an alternate universe.
I mean, that made sense. That
he's
Seth,
like, you have to basically,
like,
find out and, like, heal from, like, your trauma in order to get back to your reality. So Taylor's was basically, like, dealing with, hey, your mom's always going to suck, but you can move on from this. So that was kind of
sit here and try and find things that I actually thought were positive about this episode.
You said you liked that part.
I did, and that's what I say. Don't put that in my face.
And we both agreed that Melinda Clarke, who plays Julie, she just goes hard at anything they tell her to do. Like act like she's getting to, once again, they're like, she got to hook up with Chris Pratt, even though she's married to Sandy.
I forgot Chris Pratt was even in this episode. Oh my gosh.
Jimmy's still a bum. Because he's married to Kirsten, still sucks in this episode. What do you think of that?
I mean, there's just so many things. Like, why were they in the same house?
Why did we bring Jimmy back for that episode, but we couldn't bring him back for, like, the graduation episode in season 3?
Yeah.
Please make it make sense to me. I do think that they did that to sort of address Marissa in the whole, like, because Marissa basically somehow it's like in the coma, but he gets to read it in the coma. The letter that Julie puts on in the actual world in the hospital.
Yeah.
A letter that Marissa had written to Ryan talking about how she would always love him, but she had to move on and go kind of discover herself. And I'm sitting there like, wasn't he driving her to the airport? Could she not just handed him the letter back then? Or did she decide that even though he drove her to the airport, that before she left, she was going to mail this letter that Ryan would receive so she didn't have to say this stuff to him in person?
Yeah, and what happened to that letter? Like, she lives in Orange County. It would have gone to the same post office that it would have been delivered some. Like,
we'll talk about the Friends reference. The post office?
What are they?
Irish? So, yeah, unfortunately, Daniel's little bubble was burst when we realized it was not going to be one of the iconic...
That's why if they did a reunion show, I need it to be a Christmas episode because I got to get this...
redemption.
...out of my...
Even the
nasty
Christmas
taste out of my mouth.
With Johnny in
Little
season 3 was
Gianni.
better than this one. You made that joke again. And that about does it for the OC right now. Any final thoughts?
No. All right, well, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you again, everybody, for tuning in and listening to us this week. Is it like spring break, Easter? I mean, it's Easter this weekend.
Yep.
Happy spring break to those of you that observe spring break. You lucky, lucky people.
And Godspeed to everybody else that's going to work.
Yeah.
And happy Easter to those of you that celebrate it. I hope the Easter Bunny brought you maybe some Reese's eggs or something fun. Reese's eggs are better than Reese's peanut butter cups. It's a basic scientific fact.
And also, salute to all of you lawnmowers out there, because over the past week, I have heard 3 or 4 different people around me mowing. And I have a rule, and I will not break this rule. I do not mow before April 1st. And I'm not going to, no matter how tall it gets out there, but it's coming, and it's about to be grass mowing season. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of We Watch TV, a podcast about the TV shows we watch. You can find more from Hope and Daniel on Instagram at We Watch TV Podcast. Drop us a line if you like the show, have a question, or a recommendation. You can find Hope on Twitter at Lil Runner and Daniel on Twitter at The Real Hobo Dan. Music for today's podcast was provided by Your Tunes from Pixabay. Artwork was created using the AI program Midjourney with prompts written by Daniel.